Hello people, I welcome you to Arun Prabha. We are in conversation with Uncle Moosa towards reading Arunachal. Let us know from Uncle Moosa how to inculcate reading habit and have a quality education in our state. As we are on the conversation, you have been mentioning more on the education. So do you think there should be quality education rather than a quantity education? Since you have told us about the relationship between a student and a teacher, how a teacher should be on, practically how a teacher should be to know the students and also the quality education that I've mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. In any education, it's the quality which matters. But as a government is totally committed to making sure that some educational opportunities are available to the remotest of the villages. Just like a voting is a right, is a fundamental right, getting education, right to education is a fundamental right today. So, government as a policy will be forced to open the school. That is what the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan tried to do when we introduced, when we dissolved our model of community based inter-village schools, residential schools, but we were not ready for the whole state in one stroke thing. That was too rapid a change. It was not a transformation, it was a disaster. When all of a sudden the remote village, inter-village school hostels were closed down and the children had to go to a nearby. Where do we have teachers proficient in English? Where has the state been able to prepare a cadre of proficient teachers who can teach through the medium of instruction? Our policy should have been to tell the central government, look, let's go slow. Let's try experiment in cities first, for capital first or district headquarters. Let's try here Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Gradually over a period of 5 years, perhaps that should have been done. Over the 5 years, we will reach out the school. By the time we will bring up good quality teacher training programs and run programs. Just running and opening a school or opening a teacher training center doesn't bring automatic education. Here is what we have to learn, learn or introspect a lot on what John Holt, the American educationist, said: growing without schooling. Schooling is not necessary for a person to grow up. When schools were not there also, learning used to take place. Our schools came up only after 1947. But do we want to say that before that nobody was learned? They knew so many skills. But at a time when there was skills needed, the skills were there. But today, skills are of a different type. You need the young students to read and write proficiently in English and maybe the second language, Hindi. So that is an object. But are we ready to impart this to the children or our young people? So are we ready? Not only the government, it's not only the government, because there are private schools here, large number of private schools are there. Are they confident to say that? Yes. We will not be able to say, because these benefits are also confined only to pockets, maybe the urban Arunachal. What about the villages in remote area? How do we reach out quality education to them? This no government can solve the problem. Only by voluntary effort by large number of people.
So you don't
you don't need a school for that. Education should take place, but perhaps a lot of learning takes place much better outside the classroom. We know it from our own experience, and so many studies prove that. So because all the talk about skill development only is that. School and college is unable to give, the industry or other forum, they have to today. That's why so much of demand for skill development is being made. So definitely we have to go a decentralized approach. School should not be an end in learning. That should be only one of the platforms of learning. But much more is a library run by the community, for the community, with involvement in the community. This is what Lohit Youth Library is trying to do. But we do not feel that we are the only people to do. I am very glad that our friends in Itanagar and Naharlagan have started, and there in Shargaon, Garumtuk is trying to do. But large number of such libraries should come up, Arunachal, run by the people for the people.
Yes, yes. As I have repeatedly said, you have been devoted to your whole life to inculcate reading. So, can you suggest some books or any personalities who have been grown out of this from reading?
Yeah, in fact, during our library sessions, we give a lot of try to give a lot of exposure to the readers who come to biographies. There are inspiring biographies from whose lives can teach us a lot about how we can make our lives better within our own environment. We would talk about, in our library movement, we talk about four or five of, I think, let me tell about one from
please.
India, Baby Halder. She's a housemaid, house sweep, living in Delhi in a professor's house. But many people do not know that she is the author of some 16 books.
Wow.
Her books have been translated originally in Bengali. She has written in Bengali language, and it has been translated in even foreign languages, French, German, in many Indian languages. So Baby Halder is a model for us. A sweep who is hardly educated up to class 3 or 4 can create a literature, but she has used her mother tongue. She did not try to write in English or Hindi. She started expressing herself, and the person the professor with whom she stays and works, he was imaginative enough. He had the vision, he had the understanding to encourage her to write her expressions. That's why Baby Halder is a model worth repeating, and we have done this Baby Halder's story through skit form, not only in English and Hindi, but also in the Arunachali language, the Mishmi language, with which our volunteers are quite familiar. This is one from India, I would specifically. Another very inspiring character or life is again a person who was almost deprived of all learning, all opportunities, and was a slave during 19th century in America, a black American, who, when he was just a little boy, when he was when the President Lincoln declared freedom for all the slaves, but that effect of slavery was still there. So a black child was no more secure, even though by law in many states. So this boy was deprived of education, but he had a great fire within him, and his masters were very kind people, the Carver family. They taught him basic alphabet, reading the letters, but with that he got that fire. His name is George Washington Carver. So George Washington Carver was so eager to learn. He went from place to place, and because he was very good with his hands. So that is called, what is so important, which now today we are neglecting, hands-on learning. So he was so good. He could make plants which were sick alive, and he had a way of dealing with plants and make them okay. And that was a thing. Then he was very gifted in painting, drawing, and he was very good in character. He was very good in his work. He was very hard working, and he was outgoing in trying to learn new things. So George Washington Carver went on to people, give me some job. So he used to help them in washing clothes and cooking food, and he did, in the process of doing that, he also innovated. He improved the technology with his own methods, imagination. He took care of the ailing plants. He saved the orchards from grapes, oranges, and all that. So the people started appreciating. He used to go. With that money, he used to go to a school. He learned where he was allowed to study, learned, and then he went on. He completed his schooling where the black children were allowed, and then when he went to a college where he got admission, they said, no, black children are allowed. You are a black, we cannot admit you for a college education. He was so depressed. Any other person would have abandoned and become a extremist, but he didn't do that. He looked and he used his talents and again started working. He was very good in singing. He was painting. So some friends guided him to a college where the black people were, said, you can learn agriculture. And he went on working, and he became one of the most outstanding agriculture scientists of America in 19th century and early 20th century. So much so, today when we eat peanut butter, we should gratefully remember George Washington. It was he who developed from groundnut, which was being just fed to pigs, just as tapioca is being fed in many places are natural only to pigs. We don't eat it ourselves. It's one of the best carbohydrate resources when rice is not there. So this is what. And he also prescribed a special diet for Gandhiji during his fast time. So such a person is such an inspiring one. And we should know, if he could overcome so many difficulties, why can't our young people overcome whatever difficulties? But they should have the fire within to learn, and they can transform, they can build a beautiful Arunachal. And for that they must read.
Wow. You have narrated beautifully on these two personalities. So, as we know that he is also a great storyteller. You were also an associate with the VKV, Vivekananda Kendra Vidyalaya, and the alumni or the students who have read there, they were telling that you are a great storyteller and they remember all your stories. So can we please listen to your some of the stories, if you could tell the viewers?
Well, I would not do a storytelling here, but I would talk about the importance of stories in school education. That would be a better thing. But maybe storytelling we can have on another platform.
Okay, fine.
See, storytelling is, we all know that story. We love story. Someone tells a story. Yes. Our grandparents used to tell a story. Sometimes our amma or Abu used to tell us stories.
Our attention goes to the stories.
Yeah. And through that we used to learn many things.
Yes.
So a teacher, a school teacher, can use the story medium to bring alive many things what he wants to teach. And that will carry forward much better in the educational advancement of his students. A scientific fact or a geography thing. There are many stories connected with that. An imaginative teacher can use the storytelling technique. Now, why is a storytelling technique important for a teacher? It gives the teacher a command over communicating his ideas. He must know how to use his voice modulation. He should know how to use the pause, the silence. The entire class will be silent. He doesn't have to shout to the children. I have 40 children, 45 children, nobody listens to me, I am shouting at them. That's not. Just use a silence. Immediately the whole class comes down. Now, this is where a voice modulation has to be used. And then he can use humorous stories to draw the attention. There are times when we do not want to do formal teaching and very serious teaching. Maybe the teacher is tired, or on a hot day in the afternoons during the summer months, children are tired. Especially with the small children. I remember, now that you wanted a story, I'll tell you a bit of it.
Yes, please.
All over Arunachal, children love Amar Chitra Kathas.
Yes.
In many schools, especially residential schools, there were lot of Amar Chitra Kathas. So, in one of the schools, I went there, and it was summer month, June, July months, and a very hot foothill school, and those were the days when there used to be KG class 1 and all, children. Many schools now have done away with the KG class. They directly go class 3, 4, 5 or something. But the thing, that was probably the peak lunchtime, around lunchtime. I could see the children perspiring, and there was no electricity in most of the places those days. They are welling, so this thing. The moment they saw me, they said, story, and then I started telling something else. They knew that there are Amar Chitra Katha stories. Sometimes I used to think, said Amar Chitra Katha, and they were thinking, when I was thinking, they started rolling on the floor, and it was such a funny thing, So you see, a teacher who is insensitive to this class will not be able to guide them better.
Yes.
Whereas this is the time when teacher can, okay, you want an Amar Chitra Katha story? Okay, I'll tell you an Amar. 10 minutes, but afterwards we'll go back to that. Under that agreement we can do. I mean, so you can do like this. This is a thing can be done by many teachers. A science teacher can tell inspiring stories of biographies of Dr. Curie, Marie Curie, how great sacrifice she has done. And there are other little known scientists, like one, again I must tell, we use this story very much to popularize, motivate the readers. That is a scientist named Dr. Kamala Soni, the first lady scientist to study in the prestigious Indian Institute of Science.
Wow.
Indian Institute of Science, the first director was Dr. C.V. Raman, a very brilliant scientist, but he was totally against girls' education. And he felt that girls are not competent or won't be able to become lady scientists. So when Kamala Soni, by an accident, she was topper in her BSc degree, she got an admission card. So when she came, Dr. Raman was simply nothing doing. I won't admit you. You are a girl, we don't admit girls. She said, I am going to do Satyagraha because you have, I am, in what way the girls are. And she rose to, and by her own intelligent work, hard-working, devotion, then enthusiastic work, she proved Dr. C.V. Raman wrong and made him accept that he was wrong in not admitting girls, and from he gave her 1 year time to prove her mettle. She proved it within a few months, and after 1 year when she went to reporting, am I getting an extension or I have to leave? Then he says, but this sort of stories should motivate a lot of young girls. You are competent to learn science. Who says you cannot learn science and maths? Today, a large number of mathematicians, even in India and abroad, are are women. We have brilliant scientists in ISRO, BRC, TIFR. So girls, women. So we have a great name named Dr. Janaki Ammal, one of the earliest women, probably the first women to get a PhD in science from England, and she was the first director of the Botanical Survey of India, I think, and in whose name CSIR gives today a 5 lakhs rupees award to a brilliant scientist. No, we have such stories. Tell this to the students. And for that a teacher should know how to think. So these are the things. This is why storytelling is not just a time waste activity. It can be a very powerful tool for the teacher.
It can actually motivate.
Yes, it can motivate children, and it can bridge the gap between a teacher and a student.
Yes.
Build up a better atmosphere in the school. School will become a place of learning, a joyful environment, and then the children or the young people will be motivated to read in detail the biographies of Baby Halder or Kamala Soni or Dr. Janaki Ammal. And we have contributed by telling a story. You have produced an enthusiastic student. What more teaching is required? You don't need a school for this.
Yes. So you have shared your memory on that, on your students also. So on winding up, my last request would be that the people are very fond of you. The students, they are very fond of you. The alumni, they are very fond of you. They remember you. Is there a message you would like to give to them? If you could tell your viewers a message.
Yeah, definitely. This has been always our message, that each one can teach many. That if the reader doesn't come to books, books must go to readers. And the ISR, I told, because we are educated members have to give adult time to the reading deprived. Reading deprived might constitute maybe 70% or more than 70% of our students. We are not talking about the neoliterate women and villagers who do not come in the school discussion level. But a time has come now, through mother tongue, we must produce a reading society in Arunachal. In that, mother tongue has to play a very important role, and we, the educated people who can read and write. We are proficient, we have got good mastery of several things, we have a knowledge level is believed to be high. We have that ISR, individual social responsibility, to help a few people to become reading empowered, to reading to develop in them a joy of reading. If all of us in Arunachal can do a little bit, we don't have to go to Bambusa Library, we don't have to go to Lohit or any other place. You can do it in our own little place, in our neighborhood. And we want a large number of students, especially secondary and higher secondary school students, to come forward for this reading movement. Because if you remember the National Literacy Mission all over India, when 80s and to 2000 it was being run, the largest workforce was volunteers from schools and colleges. Large number of students went to the slums, they conducted reading activity, they conducted literacy activity. Government had that platform. We don't need a government platform for promoting literacy among my village, my people. Why do we need a platform, a government to say that, come on, you go and do under? Of course, it was done very successfully in many states. And then social issues came, many people have come forward and worked. For example, in the Hindi belt, where girls' education was very, very poor, large number of educated people, college teachers from universities and college students came forward to promote girls' education. Is a movement called Mahila Samakhya. It was again run in 1880s and 20s. And then we have again in Madhya Pradesh, the Hoshangabad science experiment, which is again by educated people. So educated people can do lot for their reading deprived people. So let us hope we all will be able to do whatever little we can. If we do happily, wholeheartedly, then within probably in the next 5 years or maximum 10 years, Arunachal can become a fully 100% reading environment. So I request and invite all the viewers of DD Arun Prabha to join this big movement, not with us, with your own neighborhood. Let's all collectively do something for the people, for Arunachal's welfare.
Okay, this was a very interesting and enlightening conversation with Uncle Moosa. We hope that Arunachal will lead towards reading. So thank you so much for joining Arun Prabha. Thank you, viewers.
Thank you, Masoni.
Thank you so much.